All right, for my second pick in the third overall of the Week 7 Sunday six-pack presented by FanDuel, I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals -6 at home against the red-hot covering machines, the Atlanta Falcons. All right, so I think the Falcons are, to me, a bit like the Jets, and I think that the market has we were finally getting value. I haven't faded the Falcons yet this year. And now, look, I know you had with the Bucks, you should have covered. But let's take a look at what they, and let me see. I had them against Seattle, coin flip win. I had them against the Rams. Like, let me go through these games. They lost by 1 to Jameis week 1, divisional game, whatever. It was a coin flip game. Then they get a coin flip win over Seattle. They had to come back to win. Coin flip game, win over the Browns. Probably should have lost that game. We're down 28-3 in the second half to the Rams. Have we seen the Rams lately? That looks a lot worse now. They had a late block punt for a touchdown and just a bunch of fluky stuff late. They were down 21 in the second half to the Bucks before Tampa Bay had secondary injuries. And by the way, the Bucks don't look as good as we thought over the past couple weeks as well. And then one of the most misleading wins of the year of the 49ers, who had 8 defensive starters out. They were also outgained. They lost the yards per play. They got a defensive score. And San Francisco, in their final 6 drives, 4 of them went into Atlanta territory. They got 0 points. So am I taking too much from that game with all the injuries that San Francisco had? Absolutely not. It was just a fluky game in general. So, and look, now if you look back, like, just perception can change. If you look back, it's like, ooh, they covered against the Bucks and Rams. Now, granted, they're down 3 scores and getting blown out. But the Bucks and Rams, it's like, oh, well, they haven't looked that good. And the Browns have been a disaster since. So a lot of these results don't look as good as they might have, even though they were kind of fluky. Now, here's from a matchup perspective, and all the Bengals do is cover somehow every game. They just find ways to cover. I think they're 12-2 against the spread in the last 14. The Falcons have potential cluster of injuries in the secondary, and I think Terrell's going to play. He's been bad. I don't know if he's listening to all the hype, but he hasn't been great. And, he was an all-pro last year, and I think he'll be fine, but he hasn't been great. Casey Hayward going on the IR, it's a big loss. He's been playing well for them. And, you had Oliver get nicked up last week, and Terrell was also nicked up. I think they were holding him out for precautionary reasons, but secondary not at full strength. And that's not great when you don't get pressure. So back to, secondary isn't fully healthy now, and you're not getting pressure. Falcons defense, 1.2% QB hurry rate, 4.1% adjusted sack rate, 12.2% pressure rate, all dead last in the NFL. So already a bad defense. You don't get any pressure, and your secondary isn't at full strength going up against the Bengals offense that we've been questioning. But last week, I loved some of the things they did, throwing on early downs, some of the formations they were running. So I think they might be starting to figure out, and the offensive line will only get better, but it doesn't matter. The Falcons get no pressure whatsoever. And for what it's worth, the Bengals defense has been pretty good this year, and I love some of the adjustments they're making in the second half. So I'm not as afraid of like the Falcons sneaking in the back door here. Higher total, so I'm not as worried about laying 6 here. The Bengals have only allowed 27 points all season in the second half, 9 field goals in 6 games. It's 4.5 points per game. They still haven't allowed a touchdown. So yeah, and the fact even if Zach Taylor, his natural self, he wants to come back out and say, I'm going to run it all day with Mixon. The Falcons' run defense is dreadful. So that, I think, will even work. So, yeah, I think this is a great spot to get, since this look-at line was like 10 and a half. It's probably what I would have made it early in the year. I think I'm at like 8, 9. So getting this under 7 because of the Falcons, being 6-0 against the spread. Their offense has been better than many expected, and their offense has been pretty good. But since he should cook here and get enough stops to cover this number at home, I think this is the right time to sell the Falcons, who have a lot of fluky covers in there.
Yeah, it's I don't like laying that many points. Like to be like to play devil's advocate. I've been fading I tried to fade the Falcons. Looking at they don't get pressure, but the thing about the Bengals is Joe Burrow brings on his own pressure a lot, right? Like it's not about the defense with Joe Burrow as much, but I do agree that this wide receiving core should have a field day against the Falcons. So it's really going to come down to, can the Falcons shorten the game and go on these like 15 play drives running football. If they can, it's going to be a long day, but you figure at some point they're going to stop covering too, right? Like that was half of my reasoning betting the Bucks against it. It was like this Falcons team, like it's got to end sometime. So
Yeah, and I've been on the Falcons a bunch, and every time I said, "Wow, that was so lucky," and then I've been watching them closely, and they've been getting away with murder, and get some injury luck, and you think about the Bucks injuries, their whole secondary went down. The 49ers whole defense was out, so you throw that into the equation as well. Their offensive numbers are a little bit inflated, and this total is higher, one of the higher totals on the board this week, which I agree with. So I'm not as afraid of as laying 6. So let's go Bengals.